and we were kind of freaking out. And our squad leader was in the other group, and he walked over to us, from the other village. And we're like, how bad do you think this is? And he's like, well, you didn't shoot anybody, so probably like a 3. And then seconds later, the other patrol base called up. They're like, we need a medevac. You guys shot one of them.
Welcome to How I Embraced the Suck, a podcast where you get to hear from veterans what life in the military is really like. I am your host, Walt, and before we start, you should know that I do not censor the show in any way. You have been warned. All right, today we've got Dane with us. He used to tell Marines what to do, and now he gets to tell his kids what to do. Dane, what's up?
I do yell at them a lot.
You got lots of practice, I guess.
Yeah. But not much, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you could make it, and just looking forward to hearing what's up. So, you were in the military, in the Marines, and what's kind of your background there?
Well, I haven't thought about any of this for a really long time, so I'm going to try to remember.
Okay, kind of wing it.
The best of my ability here, but
that's the whole story of this show is winging it. So
winging it. That's my whole life.
Yeah.
So as long as I could remember, all I ever wanted to do was be in the military. And I wanted to go fight for freedom and go to war. That's what I wanted to do. And I actually remember being mad that I didn't grow up during World War II.
Yeah, dude, same here.
So, I mean, obviously I wasn't happy when 9/11 happened, but I was kind of like, okay, well, now I get to do my thing, and I didn't miss out on all of it. And so I was just a stupid idiot, basically is what it came down to. And I grew up mostly in Iowa, and very small town. Like, my dad was a pastor, grew up in the public education system, and so it was all just, that's the best thing you can do. Go fight for your country. It's the best thing you can do. And if anybody questioned that, it was just like, well, you're a horrible person, And so I never heard any intelligent argument against not going. And and I always wanted to be in the Army. So my dad's best friend's kid was a ranger and like a pathfinder and a jump master and all this other shit. And I got to talk to him a lot.
Wow.
And then when I went to join the Army, I was like, man, I'm like, just sign me up. Well, I didn't say that. I was telling them what I wanted to do. And all they told me is, oh, hey, you'll get X amount of money for that. I was like, dude, I don't care. I don't care about the money. Like, can you get me in the direction of that? And they weren't helpful. They were just like, oh yeah, we'll give you money and benefits after you get out. And I was like, dude, I don't care. Like, so then the Marine recruiter called me one day, and I went and talked to him. I was like, dude, I just want to go over there and fight. And he was like, all right, well, let's go to MEPS tomorrow. I was like, cool.
Yeah.
When I was home for a few months and then headed out, like, actually January 6th of 2008. So in 3 days from time of recording, it'll be my 10 years out of the Marine Corps.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah.
Went to boot camp, which was, thinking back on it, like, obviously it sucked a lot, but it was fun. It was kind of fun. And there's so many funny experiences. Like, this kid, Chak, this poor kid, he was from Vietnamese, or he was Vietnamese. He moved over here like 3 years ago from Vietnam. And at the very beginning, they ask you, like, anybody here that feels like they shouldn't be here? And he rose his hand. and which is confusing,
Right.
And he said he thought he was gonna go be a a mechanic for the Marines. He didn't know he had to become a Marine.
Oh.
and and then after all of it, they tell you what your MOS is, and he wasn't even a mechanic.
Right.
He was admin. So whoever put him through,
right,
just has to be going to hell. I don't know. Screwing over kids like that is just a horrible thing to do. But he would scream throughout the night all the time too.
Oh wow! So he thought he was going to be like a private contractor doing mechanics work or something. Oh man, that's a bummer, man.
Yeah. But like I was saying, like some people did it. He did it quite a bit, and maybe I just remember that because he was in the rack next to me, so it was easier for me to hear him.
Right.
But he'd be like, "Aye, sir," like.
Oh man!
But after all that, I went to School of Infantry, and I went to boot camp in MCRD, San Diego,
and
then SOI was on Camp Pendleton, and I don't remember a whole lot about that, except for I'm pretty sure every single one of our instructors was under investigation for hazing.
Oh, at the time or later?
At the time.
Oh wow! So did that make them tougher, or were they like walking on eggshells?
Oh no, they didn't care.
Oh okay.
And I don't know if that's I don't know if that's exactly true, but I could definitely see it because some of them were just fucking psycho.
Yeah.
And so when you go to SOI, the first while is just basic shit, and then you get split up between line companies and then weapons company. So I went to weapons company, and I became a mortarman, so we did mortar training, and then after that went to 2-1 weapons company.
Okay.
And we were getting ready to go to Iraq, and you can't shoot mortars in Iraq. And what we were going to be doing over there had nothing to do with... It wasn't the normal way that you could deploy a weapons company. I think that's the best way to put it. So they broke us all down. And a weapons company has mortarmen, machine gunners, and then anti-armor. And they just took... They split everybody up, and then it was kind of like a draft, The staff sergeants and lieutenants or whatever got to pick and choose who they wanted. So in my first deployment, we were all integrated. So, and because of that, it made us, like, the entire company was really, really tight, and that's not common.
Sure.
So
how many in a company? A company's 120, I'm guessing, or am I aware?
Let's see here. We were always really short-handed.
Okay.
So, but a weapons company is not the same. There's not as many people in the line companies.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. I could figure out all the numbers, but it would just take me a while and not really matters. But
okay. But I'm sorry, you were saying you were integrated and really tight as a unit.
Yeah, because when we got back, we went back to like our correct squad or platoons.
Sure.
But we were still best friends with the guys in the other platoons. So and everybody, all our leadership was awesome. Really, they were really mean sometimes. Like you get that really mean. That sounds so dumb, but they were always cool. But overall, the whole unit was great.
Sure.
A lot of the guys were from Fallujah, like fought in Fallujah.
Right.
Probably the second time, but we had a lot of really respected people written in books a lot, so there was legit guys and
gotcha.
I don't want to say we were the best company out there, but we could have been.
Yeah.
Where am I at now?
Deployment coming back. You mentioned real quick. You mentioned no mortars in Iraq. Why is that?
Just because just weren't shooting them.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not sure why they stopped, but when I went over there anyways, we weren't doing that. So in Iraq, basically what we did was drive around higher ups to meetings.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I guess it was
like a glorified taxi or a glorified, well, not glorified, but like just a security detail.
Pretty much.
Okay.
And it sucked. It sucked. But we went all over Iraq too. We started out up by South Sinjar, or no, we were in South Sinjar, but right next to Syria. Like we could see Syria.
Oh, okay. Okay, sure.
And then we went and stayed in Ramadi and drove to Haditha every day to patrol. So like our base was in Ramadi, but we had to drive like forever away to get to Haditha. And then after that we went to Al Assad, which is a giant base.
Right.
So, and then we did like QRF, Quick Reaction Force, and we patrolled out there too. Nothing too crazy happened in Iraq. It was, like I said, we mostly just drove around people, and I don't know. That's about it.
Right.
You know.
The
culture was really weird over there, for sure.
Oh, really? In the local culture or the military culture?
Mm-hmm. The local.
Oh, okay.
But what were you asking?
Oh, I was just going to say, I know someone who was an MLRS driver or gunner. And I think maybe an earlier Iraq war, they went over and then really quick, they weren't using the rockets. So he ended up just driving truck, just convoying supplies. You know, he went from having like a real, you know, a war type job to just being a semi driver. So it's interesting, you know, to hear that you had something kind of similar, was where you go ready to kill, essentially, like that's your job. And then you're like, well, no, I'm just going to not do that.
Drive these people around all the time and get yelled at because I don't know why, you know?
Right. Interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we did that. I had a thought and it slipped.
The local culture? Maybe, or?
Nah, I don't remember. That happens to me a lot. But
yeah, I've gotten really good at taking notes when I have a thought pop in my head, because otherwise I will not remember to answer that question. But I will remember to start saying I have a question, and then I won't have it in my head, and I sound like an idiot.
So I ran into a guy I went to high school with in Iraq, and I only graduated with like 85 people. So that was
seriously.
Yeah, he replaced me. He replaced our unit, and I think they were the last unit. They were supposed to be the last infantry unit going to Iraq.
Okay, sure.
Because I was there in 2009, so 2010 time frame.
Okay, right.
And yeah, they're not too much more in with the Iraq story.
Right.
It was just really fucking hot all the time, and you just hated life and just sat around a lot. But when we came back, we split back into our platoons. So I was in mortars again, and we went out in the field more than any other platoon in the entire battalion. And my gunny would like make connections with everyone he could. So he had us driving up from Pendleton to 29 Palms to shoot mortars for their training exercises, because they didn't want to use any of their guys. They wanted to use us. So
really? Why is that? Just because
we were out in the field so much that we were really, really fucking good.
Gotcha. Okay, sure.
And people probably just liked him too. So I don't know, you know, just how you make connections. They're like, oh, hey, let's get him to come up here instead.
Right.
So 29 Palms is a horrible place. So I hated every minute of the time I was there. I feel bad for the guys who were stationed there. It sucks. Like deploying to the desert's bad enough when you get stuck there, all the time. And
well, and at 29 Palms, aren't you hours and hours away from like a big city or something? Or am I thinking of
Yeah,
a different? Okay.
no, it's pretty out there.
So any
I don't know.
Liberty is like, it's got to be a weekend to go somewhere.
When I went
Basically.
up there, all we did was train. So, and
Oh,
sometimes
okay.
that'd be like 4 weeks at a time, but we never got to go do anything.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I guess if you're not posted there, that'd be a little different.
Mm.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah,
Huh.
but so we just did mortars all the time, and we knew we were going to Afghanistan, and
Right.
we weren't taking them there either. So it was like, what are we doing?
Did you know that a long time before you deployed?
Long enough to make it confusing why we were still going out to shoot mortars.
Right. Okay.
Like, so it's like we could be doing like patrolling. Like we should probably learn how to patrol, especially with all these other guys who just got out of SOI and are with us, and all they've done is shoot mortars.
Right. Right.
You know, so
Or we could just shoot mortars now and learn how to patrol when we're doing it under fire, potentially.
yeah.
Because that's efficient.
But it was a pretty good time, though, that training cycle. The training cycle to Iraq, for one, I mean, I was a boot, so people were just shitty to you to begin with.
Right. Right.
But it was like they wanted us to hate life as much as possible. So, but then when we were training to go to Afghanistan, all of a sudden that changed. And like, oh yeah, you could bring your phone to the field. We're like, we started drinking with everybody a lot more. Like sometimes they go on hikes and then drink out in the hills overnight, you know. Or
really?
After training ops, we'd all drink together, or
Yeah.
they get kegs out to the field and we'd drink. And sometimes they'd order pizza and bring it out, and which was really cool. But at the same time, it's like, dude, I think that they think we're all gonna go fucking die.
Right.
And that's why they're being so nice to us. Like, I don't understand this.
Right.
So, but,
oh, that would stink.
Yeah. But went to Afghanistan just as another grunt. Had our patrol base had like 13 people in it. Then that includes the interpreter, the doc, and the 2 engineers that we had. So we had like 9 Marines or 9 grunts.
Sure.
And we just patrolled every day. We
so
go
patrol
out
base
at night a lot.
The patrol base, are you out there for a while, or is that just what exactly is a patrol base?
It was so this one was so small it was actually supposed to just be an observation post where you just sit there and don't patrol out of there, but we had to.
Gotcha.
So that's where we were the entire time.
Oh, okay. So so it's not like you're out there for a while and then you come back for the night or once a week or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, that's where you live. At first, I was on a different detail for like a month, so I wasn't necessarily there the entire time, but basically,
sure.
And yeah, we were about almost a mile away from the next base, probably.
Oh, okay.
And we were just scattered all through Helmand, the Garmsur province.
Okay.
And it was like one main road everybody's patrol base was on, and ours was like a half mile off the path. So that made it nice because when like
no brass were stopping by to make a visit. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when they did, they would call us because we had pets.
Mm.
So somebody would be like, "Hey, like you can't have your fucking pets when Sergeant Major's there."
Right.
And so we would call up and be like, "We got a local tip of an IED over there behind the hill. We're gonna go check out really quick." And 5 of us would disappear with the dogs and hide behind the hill until Sergeant Major left and go back. So,
do you think he saw through it, or?
Okay, because he was way up there.
Okay, he was pretty hardcore.
No, I mean he was like really far north is what I meant.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. I forget which companies it was, but there was like the higher ups had their base, and then it was one of the line companies, another line company, and then it was us, and then it was another line company. So like we were far away from them. So we only saw him a few times out of the whole thing, but Afghanistan wasn't too crazy either. I mean, we found 160 plus IEDs and caches.
Oh wow! Your 13 guys.
Sorry, my platoon.
Oh, okay.
So there was 4 patrol bases for our platoon, but
Gotcha,
my platoon found that many.
Wow.
And there'd be days where people find like 40 of them in one day. That didn't happen too often, but it was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
When people asked me about it, I was like, yeah, basically I just walked around and I was a dick to people and tried not to blow up. That was basically my deployment. I mean, one of the caches that they dug up, there was like a little dirt bike in there. And we had an EOD attachment for the entire company.
Mm-hmm.
So they came out and they cleared it. And my buddy, who's a squad leader in one of the other PBs, he pushed it to our PB, the patrol base. And after, they're like, yeah, EOD cleared it. So it was in my base. People were trying to kickstart it, throwing it around. Just messing with it a lot. And finally, we took it to like our company's main patrol base.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my buddies picked it up out of the Mat V and threw it out the back. And when it hit, it cracked open and an IED fell out of it.
Are you?
So,
and then you start sweating.
Yeah, I was just like, holy shit, man!
Oh,
it wasn't rigged. It wasn't rigged to explode. I think it was in there just to transfer it.
Oh, okay, sure, but still,
wow. If it was rigged to explode, EOD probably would have found it.
Sure,
if it was rigged to go. But and that makes sense why they didn't, because they didn't crack it completely open. But
right,
a lot of things like that would happen. They were just
wow.
But, and we just a lot of bombs going off a lot. Our whole battalion only lost one guy, which is horribly sad, but it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah,
I think most of us were walking on IEDs. Because there's sometimes we go down this trail every day,
sure,
every single day, and we can see it. We can see where we're going, and then one day the minesweeper would beep, and we get a hit on it and dig it up. Like, dude, this has been here forever.
Right,
and we're just walking on it because when it rains, it damages them too. So the pressure plates and everything.
Right.
So that's probably why they didn't go off. Probably why it didn't set off the sweeper. But
wow,
like, damn, dude, like we were just there. Like, how many times do you think you step on that?
Wow. Yeah, one thing I've heard from folks is that and I think probably most civilians don't really realize is you're over there in that environment where a pile of garbage could be an IED, or a pile of dog poo or something could be an IED, and you naturally, without even thinking about it, you just learn to avoid those kind of things. When you came back, did you find that still held on a little bit? Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. I was never hit by one.
Sure, sure.
We never had one go off. Well, that's not. We never had one go off on somebody. There's like some unexpected ones go off close to us.
Sure,
that happened. But it wasn't like a really personal, horrifying experience for me with one.
Okay.
So I think that's why some guys freak out about shit like that, which makes sense,
Sure.
But speaking of the garbage, there was one road that we couldn't go through, basically, because the sweeper would be set off by everything because of the trash. And guess what the Marine Corps did for us? They gave us a long stick with a knife tied to the top of it. They forced us to carry them on every patrol, and the idea was you stick it in the ground and drag it towards you, because if it blows up, the farther away the better, obviously, so you get this long stick and you stick it in and pull it towards you. But so Dude, we carried that shit around for too long, dude. It's like, why don't we just avoid that road instead of
Right.
doing the shit? You know?
So the minesweeper would go off. So instead of using that, you just used the stick and knife. Is that what you're saying? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So
that was the idea.
Full analog, basically.
Mm-hmm. We weren't that stupid,
Right.
so we didn't do that. But we still had to carry it around.
Oh
It's
man,
like this is outrageous, dude. Oh, that was something else, but
wow.
Yeah, it's been. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. It was extremely hot during the day, and then it'd get freezing cold at night. We had some horrible storms. Like I said, IEDs after IED. You know, there was once.
Sure.
We were sitting. The guy our PB was named after died in the unit before us, and he died up on this hill that had a shit ton of IEDs on it. And one day they're like, hey, you're going to go take EOD out there and they're going to clear it all with your engineers. And that didn't make sense either, because it's like, dude, if you know that there's just a bunch of IEDs there, why would you go fuck with it?
Sure. If
and
you're not. Yeah.
Yeah, not only that, but like, we didn't ever go over there. We never had to go through it. It wasn't like, oh, this is in the way, instead of avoiding it every day.
Right.
Let's go clear it out. It's like, no, we never had to step a foot on that hill, you know, but
sure.
But let's go blow that shit up anyways. And there's this village there, and they were out there for a few hours. Finally, they came back and we were all sitting in a ditch. And the EOD guy's like, you guys are going to want duck for this one. So we got below the ditch, and when it blew up, all the glass in the buildings of this tiny village just shattered. Like, we got hit by the glass, and the building was like 40 feet away or something. You know?
Wow. Yeah.
Probably not that far, but it's like, we fucked up their stuff a lot. Not necessarily intentionally all the time, but sometimes.
Sure.
Like I was saying, on a trail that you're there all the time, we were actually going to hide our dogs when we got a hit on a.
Oh.
Yeah, so we got a hit on this IED, and it's like, the guy turned around and told me, I'm like, shut up, just keep going. Like, there's not an ID here. He's like, no, seriously, I got a hit. And I was like, oh, fuck. So we called it up, and the EOD guys came out, and it was right next to a pump house that they would pull from the canals to water all their heroin. And there was I think 3 of the villages right around us use that pump.
Right.
And they drilled out holes in the bottom of the house. It's like a shed, you know, it's not a house.
Sure.
But laid a whole satchel of C4 in it and blew it up. We had so many angry people coming at us.
Because of the IED?
Well, we blew up their pump.
No. Why did you blow the pump up? Or what was the reason?
Oh, because it was right next to it.
Oh, okay. Okay,
It was right next to it. And, I mean, that's a really shitty thing to do.
Right.
But people started coming and telling us where they were more often, because they didn't want something else to blow up. So,
right.
Not saying that was cool thing for us to do, but that's what happened.
Right. Right.
And the difference for me from Iraq and Afghanistan, like I was saying, I moved around to like 4 different camps, 3 or 4 different camps when I was in Iraq. We were in MRAPs when we patrolled. And so we never really interacted with the people too much. But when we were in Afghanistan, like, we patrolled every single day, sometimes more than once a day, because if our other squad got hit on an IED, EOD would come to our base, and then we'd have to take them out there.
Right, sure.
And Oh, anyways, what I was saying is we had 5 villages that we go to all the time, 5 little towns. And so I really got we really got to know the people, like who this person was and
right,
everything. So that part of it was a cooler experience than Iraq was.
Right. Huh.
And like the people were pretty cool towards us, you know. One of the storms took out the road, the only road we had between our base and everyone else's.
Right.
You know,
right.
and they knew that, and they were helping us out. Like they'd give us some shit for free, you know, smoke cigarettes or whatever. And do you want? I'm assuming you are aware that the military wastes a lot of money.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Let me give you a personal experience of this happening.
Sure.
So that road that was wiped out, you know, we called in for water and shit because we were having to walk like a mile with 5-gallon buckets, not buckets, but cans to get gasoline to power a generator. And like, we couldn't just keep doing that all the time because we still had to patrol and shit. So we called for a helo to come bring us water and other supplies and stuff. They didn't come. But by the time they came, the road was fixed. We didn't need anything. I believe they tried to cancel it, and they're like, "No, it's already in the paperwork, so we're coming." And then
paperwork's been filed. The mission must go through.
Yeah, and then they dropped all the stuff on some dude's field and completely destroyed his field. So now that guy's mad at us too. You know, it's like but they get so much money. Like our government just hands out money, dude. Have you ever? What's his name? He wrote No. What did he write? We Meant Well.
No, I haven't heard of it.
Peter Van Buren.
Okay.
I would definitely check him out, dude. He was like a government, like a GS something. I don't remember what they actually do.
Okay.
There was like one of them that I ever saw before, and he would like interview guys or interrogate people, and then they're the ones who hand out money and stuff like that.
Oh, like a civil affairs guy or something, kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what he did. And in his book, there's just stories after stories of just handing over money because we think that that's going to change things, and then people just pocket it and disappear, and we're just throwing it all away, dude.
Right.
And he actually did mean well when he was going over there. And then it was just like he was looking at shit, and people kept telling him, dude, that's not what we're about. Like, the only people who got rewarded, I guess, if you want to call it that, or like, we'll just call it recognized in his group, were who could spend the most money. That's all they cared about.
Sure.
And he's like, we're not doing anything good here. You know, it's just like people are just trying to waste as much money as possible.
Sure.
And that's it. So,
what?
I guess, I'll tell this story. It's a pretty well. Before I tell it, I'll just say, like, when I was in Iraq, I figured out pretty quickly that, like, I don't think we should be here. This isn't what I thought. Like, what are we doing?
Sure,
you know?
Sure.
I kind of just ignored all those questions and kept going with it. Like, I had another deployment to do. I'm not going to start second guessing the shit now, you know?
Right.
And then after I got out, like, it just was not good for me, really. But I started digging into stuff, trying to figure out what freedom actually meant, because I had been lied to about it my entire life. And then just lied to about the military my entire life, lied to about the wars. You know, I could go on about what I've been lied to by the government-run schools forever. And the church was just like that too. My community was just like that too. They all just believed Well, of course we're doing good stuff, and we're not,
Yeah.
and we're not. But I kind of feel like out of all that, I was able to do something good, and it's kind of a shitty, it's kind of a shitty story, but I mean, it happened. We had captured a number of Taliban in the area, and like one of our teams, when we go out, we'd split up a lot. So it'd be like 5 guys going that way, 4 guys going that way.
Sure.
And we heard a gunshot and started looking, and there was guys with rags on their heads and AKs that popped up behind a bush. And if I would have shot that moment, I know I would have smoked him. He was like 500 meters out.
Okay.
But I hesitated because I was confused about what was happening.
Right.
And then they started running away, and we started shooting. And I hit one of them in the arm. And then they stand up with their guns up and start walking towards us. We're like yelling in their language to come over to us. And then they start taking off again. And we straight south was the village that we were going to go patrolling. And then to the left of us was another one. And we look over there, and there is like 12 ANP trucks, the Afghani National Police.
Right. Okay.
So I shot one of their police officers.
Oh.
And they never told us they were coming. They were never there, really.
Gotcha.
So it was not normal for them. And dude, I hate these people more than the Taliban for sure. But I had to write a few reports. I honestly thought I was going to be in a lot of trouble for it, but it was a legit situation, and we didn't overreact. Like our gunny was like, "Get the fuck up here right now." I was like, "Oh, no." But I really believe that I was the one who hit him, so I was like, it was my fault.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I didn't want somebody else to get in trouble for it. But after we wrote reports and stuff like that, he was like, "We're really proud of you guys. You handled the situation really well."
Right.
I was like, "That's not what your tone of voice was like when we were walking up here."
Right.
Oh, and it was funny, dude. We were standing there, and we were kind of freaking out. And our squad leader was in the other group, and he walked over to us, from the other village. And we're like, "How bad do you think this is?" And he's like, "Well, you didn't shoot anybody, so probably like a 3. And then seconds later, the other patrol base called up. They're like, "We need a medevac." We got shot one of them. Like, oh, fuck.
So maybe a 7 or 8.
Yeah. But my point of that was they never came back. They never came back. And the people there, in their culture, they have like a chain of command as well in their culture,
Okay.
And it went all the way up to their top guy, and their top guy told our battalion commander that they loved us because they knew if the cops came, they could just come and get us, and we would go kill the cops. and the cops
were corrupt.
Oh yeah, dude.
Okay.
I'll get into that here in a second.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, they never came back. So,
but the locals,
even though
the locals were relying on you to keep them away.
Yeah, they actually thought that we would go kill them if they came around.
That's awesome.
So, and so even though I believe that all of it was bullshit from the beginning, and we should have never been there, and I hated myself for a long time for being a part of it, I was always able to hold on to that one moment where I made a mistake and shot somebody I shouldn't have, as like I did something good for the people there that we were invading.
Right. Yeah, because like you're saying, this one of those towns that you were in all the time?
Yeah. They were never there, and we knew they were going to be there. Like that, we would always know if they were going to be in the area.
Right.
And this time we didn't. But a lot of the AMP guys. Well, I guess I'll just talk about my personal experience with them.
Sure.
One day we were just hanging out and heard gunfire at a different village, and so we grabbed our gear and ran out there, and it's the AMP, and they're shooting at little kids.
Oh, wow.
Like, why the fuck? We're like, why the fuck would you shoot at little kids? Like,
Right.
well, they ran away from us. It's like, because they ran away and they were stealing people's shit left and right. Like we watched them go and just take their stuff.
Sure.
You know. So yeah, I was very happy when I heard that, and that they never came back, and they were destroying their drug crops too. You know.
Sure.
So they were ruining their life, really. And another cool moment for me with the AMP was it was that day that they were shooting at the little kids. I went over and you can't really talk to them, but you can just kind of stand there and talk at them or whatever.
Right.
And they had a cucumber, and they were eating this cucumber, and I was like, give me that fucking cucumber. And then I just stood there and ate it right in front of them. I was like, you guys are
who's boss now?
Yeah, I don't know. It was just a funny moment. I was so pissed at them, dude.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, were they were just shooting in the air or shooting?
No, they were trying to shoot the kids.
Wow. Huh.
And then they stole their shit. So I stole their cucumber. So...
a small gesture, but maybe definitely memorable for them.
Yeah, it was definitely an FU. You know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. When I got back from Afghanistan, I just went to the corporal of the guard and basically sat in an office and got a bunch of dudes to go post up at the armory or the comms building or the motor pool and places like that, and then I have to go walk around and check on them. And so I'd work for 48 hours, but then I'd have 4 days off.
Oh, okay, sure.
And that was like the last 6 months. So that was awesome. And the entire time in the Marines, you know, all we did was drink.
Right.
If we weren't in camis, we were drinking, and that's all we did.
Yeah. Huh.
And there's some guys that I had to quit hanging out with because they get too drunk and then just want to fight everybody.
Right.
And they would win, you know. And so it was never like, oh no, I'm scared to get in a fight when I'm around these guys, you know. It's
right.
Like, I'm scared these guys are going to hurt you.
Right.
Real bad.
Right.
You know? So there was a lot of that too, you know. But.
Huh. So the friendships that you had in the military, especially deployed and everything, have those lasted?
Nah.
After you got out, or
not really? A few.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's not more, but yeah. My wife and I actually went on a vacation a few months ago up through. We basically made a circle around Lake Michigan.
Oh, okay, sure.
And a number of my buddies live in Michigan, so I got to see 4 of them.
Okay.
And I haven't talked to them for a long time, but now we're talking more.
Yeah.
We're trying to keep in touch because it was like, dude, we haven't really talked in 10 years.
Right.
You know, and everybody's kind of going through the same shit. And so it's helpful, even for me too, you know, being in contact with some guys. I lived in Texas before I moved back up to Iowa here. And
okay.
There was a number of guys that I was in with right in the area. So I'd see a few of them every once in a while. Well, try to go. There was one of them that's not doing like great.
Right.
A lot of the time, you know.
Right.
Like worried about him most of the time if I think about him, you know.
Right.
So, which is often, you know, I always just worry about this guy. So I was trying to go out to eat with him every other week. And I was we did that for a long time. And then all of a sudden COVID happened and it was like, well, fuck.
Right. Yeah.
Now we can't do that. And then I moved up here and sometimes he'll call me at like 3:00 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
And then I don't answer it, but then I can't get a hold of him during the day. So
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I try to stay in contact with him, but it's hard to. So some of the guys I was with, it's just hard to contact them.
Yeah.
They
well,
drug
if
problems or drinking problems, and they just drop off the mat, and everybody's like, "Oh, is that guy okay?" And we're like, "I don't know, man."
Right.
No one can talk to him. No one can find him.
Yeah. Huh. What was it like transitioning when you got out of the military, kind of from the military being in that culture to now being a free civilian? What was that like?
Well, when I got out, my wife and I moved to northern Minnesota, where there's no people. We didn't have internet for the entire time we lived there.
Okay, nice.
It was my great grandfather built the house that's on the farm, and my grandma, who would have been 100 by now, was born on the farm. So it's been in our family for a long time. And my parents built a new house up there, but they still lived in Iowa, so nobody was living there. So I was like, all right, well, we'll go live there. We have a good size acreage up there, and we were in the middle of the woods. When I say that, I'm not just kind of, I'm not joking about that part.
Yeah.
So I didn't connect with anybody at all.
Okay, sure.
We made some friends there, but it was like at the bar, and a third of them were felons. I always say they were the best felons I ever knew in my life. They're cool dudes. Some of them were also vets, but those friendships didn't last. And but yeah, I just spiraled out of control because I was realizing what had happened and what I was a part of. And I didn't have internet, so I couldn't connect with anybody. And then I remember thinking, like, man, I got to be the only one thinking about this. Because every time I'd talk to somebody, they were just super proud of everything still. So it's like, this is, they're probably going to hate me or, think I'm a pussy if I all of a sudden disagree with what we did.
Right.
So it was a very hard time in my life when I was up in Minnesota. And we were there about 2 years, I want to say. But I just started learning about liberty and what that all meant. When we moved to Texas, we got connected with some really, really good people who helped us out a lot. And I still, every once in a while, just spiral out of control in my own head,
Right.
I'm assuming you know who Scott Horton is.
Yeah.
Okay, so I learned this from him, and if I have anything wrong, it's my own fault, not his, because he's not wrong about anything.
Right.
But I figured out, like, we went to Afghanistan. There was a small group who went after Osama bin Laden.
Okay.
Around the border of Pakistan.
Right.
And all those guys were begging for reinforcements. They're like, he's right there. We just don't have the men to go get him.
Okay.
And our government didn't help him. They didn't give him reinforcements. They dropped some really large bombs on him. So, you can make the argument that they tried to get him that way, or did they just do that to save face? I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not saying that I believe that they wanted him alive. Actually, maybe I would go that far. Because if they kill him right away, then how do we keep pushing the wars? Did you ever watch the Green Beret movie with the guy who plays Thor? They're on horses. Is it 13 strong?
12 strong.
12 strong. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, those guys were one of the first people to go over there.
Right.
They went north to fight the Taliban.
Right.
They were fighting the Taliban. The Taliban did nothing to us. The Taliban tried to give us Osama bin Laden in every way that they possibly could while saving as much face as they possibly could. And we just said, nope, too bad, we're going to war now. So when we went over there, we started a war with people who had nothing to do with 9/11 and who could never and will never have an ability to harm us in any way whatsoever.
Right.
So
yeah.
I hate the Taliban. I'm not saying they're good people, but they are no threat to us
Sure.
at all.
Sure.
And I don't want to hear an argument of, well, we got to do something because look what we did, and it's way worse.
Right. Right.
So this shit would just circle in my head day after day after day, man.
Right.
And then you find out we support Al Qaeda all the time. All the time. So now, not only did you not try to kill them to begin with, you fund them and armed them. And I think that should anger every single one of us to the point where the wars stop tomorrow. You know, for examples, because I know this shit sounds crazy and people probably don't believe this, you know, but Syria, it was the Al-Nusra Front that we were funding, right? Their organization was called Al-Qaeda in Iraq. That's what they were called. They changed the name, basically.
Right.
Because it was those guys who were now the Al-Nusra Front. I don't know if you ever saw it, but there was a video. It was the first Facebook video that I ever had removed from my Facebook multiple times.
Oh, okay.
But it was one of their leaders killing somebody in Syria and cutting their heart out and eating it.
Oh, wow.
And this was the moderate rebels that Barack Obama funded.
Right.
And then, man, our government is so stupid that they think that things are going to work out for them. So they're giving the Al-Nusra Front money and guns, and then they split, and some of them become ISIS. And John Kerry, there's a video of John Kerry saying, you know, we thought we could handle them. But then ISIS goes down into Iraq and starts taking over Iraq. And that's about the time that we were, I don't know if we were gone completely, leaving or what. I don't think we've ever been gone completely, but then everybody's making the argument, oh, that's what happens when you try to withdraw from a country. It's like, no, it's not. That wouldn't happen if we didn't arm ISIS.
Right.
You know, so I'm not saying we directly created ISIS, but I mean, basically, how could you argue anything else?
Right.
And in Yemen, we are funding them, basically flying for their air force. Because, you know, we have, and the Yemen thing, dude, we're killing people over there because the Saudis were mad that Barack Obama made a deal with the Iranians, the nuclear deal. They weren't happy about that. So, and they wanted a war with Yemen, one of the poorest countries in the world, you know.
Right.
So we're like, yeah. And Barack Obama says that we're doing it to placate the Saudis. That's why we got to go fight in Yemen. And then we start basically flying for them. We're resupplying everything for them and going after the Houthis up in the north. And Al-Qaeda are in the south. So we're Al-Qaeda is growing stronger and stronger there. We're taking out their enemies. I wouldn't doubt if we were, I don't know for sure, but if we were funding them and giving them guns, it would make sense because that's what our government does, you know?
Right.
So even when we're not directly giving them money and weapons, which they probably are, we're killing all their enemies and making them a lot stronger.
Right.
And so they're literally funding the one enemy in the area that if we have an enemy, it's Al-Qaeda. You know?
Right.
And what we're doing we're taking out water treatment facilities. We're bombing their crops, bombing their animals, deliberately making people starve to death. And, you know, when somebody does that to your country, the majority of the people who are dying are children under 5.
Yeah.
And it's the largest recorded cholera outbreak that we know of that's happening over there. And all you need to do to fix cholera is have clean water. But we're destroying their water treatment facilities. Not only that, but our government has targeted the cholera hospitals.
And
yeah, I don't know, man. It's like, if you can explain what's happening to Yemen and they're not pissed about all the, it's gotta, by the time it's over, there is predicted to be like 1 million dead by the time it was over. I was just reading on it not too long ago, and I forget what the number was, but even in the article, that's the best guess. It's probably way more than that. But so if somebody knows that and that doesn't get them from all the dead kids, like maybe supporting Al Qaeda will. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to get people to not be for the wars, which is just stupid. But
and the Yemen one, I mean, it's not in the news much, but it's interesting because traditionally both left and right would be opposed to the way we're doing it. The left, because of the humanitarian aspect and murdering all those kids, and then the right because, like you're saying, the right generally wants to fight Al Qaeda, not the Houthis. So if that story was in the news, you'd think both sides would be in agreement to stop that and do something else maybe, but at least stop this. But yet it continues and it's not in the news. It's kind of interesting.
And when it is, it's always the Iranian-backed Houthis.
Right.
And from my understanding, they might know each other a little bit, but it's not like what we're doing with the Al-Nusra Front in Syria. It's not like they're actually backing them and giving them arms.
Right.
And
sure,
there's no purpose for us to be there anyways. And I don't even know if people actually care about what's happening. Because the world would be a lot better if on 9/12/2001, instead of everybody being angry, which rightfully so. I'm not saying shouldn't have been angry.
Sure, yeah.
But instead of using that anger to be aimed at going to kill as many people as possible, if they just took a second and took a deep breath and tried to figure out why that happened in the first place, I don't think that they could have gotten away with any of this. Because the reason that 9/11 happened was because we had people over there in the first place.
Right, right, yeah.
And like, we killed hundreds of thousands of kids in Iraq before 9/11 even happened with the sanctions and shit like that. They're kind of doing the same thing in Yemen.
Right.
It's kind of the same idea. So it's like, we're killing thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people there, and you wonder why they're mad. Like, it doesn't matter that they're shitty people. It's not like, oh, we have to go kill every shitty person in the entire world, which is not feasible. But on top of that, it's like, maybe the people running the show over here are even worse than the people over there.
Sure.
And every single one of these wars has just been complete bullshit.
Yeah.
And our fault. But dude, it makes me so angry. I get so mad about it.
Yeah, it can be tough. Yeah, how do you, you kind of touch on it a little bit, but having been over there, and obviously you weren't shooting people and all that, but having been a part of it to a small extent, and then come back and had your viewpoint changed, how do you not deal with that, but how do you reconcile that, kind of the regret?
I don't know if I'd say I regret it, because
okay
now, because I probably would have never been anti-war if I never went.
Okay, sure, I see what you're saying.
And I wouldn't have met my wife if I didn't go. And the problem is, a lot of it was fun. A lot of the time,
yeah,
fun.
For sure.
And if we were actually doing good things, I'd probably still be in.
Okay, sure.
But it's like, we're not, so nobody should go. Now that's what I try to do, is convince people not to go, and teach people about the wars so they won't support it.
Right.
But I don't, dude, I've spun out of control multiple times with drinking, and when I lived in Texas, I got to know a lot of people because I lived in Fort Worth, and people from my last podcast would contact me, and like we go get a beer. So I'd meet a lot of vets, and just learning about their issues and stuff like that. And some of them did way worse shit than I ever have, And
sure. Yeah.
They're not dealing with it right, and I don't know how you do. I don't know how much I want to get into that. I've had some pretty sad stories, dude. And I have friends who have killed kids.
Yeah.
Some because they had to, and some when they didn't have to. And I say have to, like, oh, dude, that kid's calling in the mortars on us.
Right. Yeah.
Like, yeah. And doing it, you say justified, but like not being there wasn't justified. So if you want to get crazy about like the libertarian or anarchist argument, none of it was justified. But when you're in that world, there
in the moment, Yep.
In that world, there are things considered good kills and then not. And so like the justified ones fuck you up horribly too, And the guys who did it unjustly, they're just slowly killing themselves because they can't deal with it. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know how to help them deal with that, and that has made me like spiral out of control again too. Yeah, because trying to help other people deal with this horrible shit, But I don't know. I guess God really is the only way to go about it. Yeah, that's what I'm figuring out in my life right now.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's probably the thing I miss most about Texas is being able to meet everybody. And there's a lot more events down there. Like I've been to Mises Institute events, Ron Paul lived really far away from me, but I was able to go to some of his events, and he'd have speaking events up by us. So I got to meet him.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've got to meet Scott Horton, just a bunch of really cool people. And being here in the middle of nowhere, I don't got that anymore.
Right.
But yeah, so I miss it. I miss it out there. And I don't know. I was trying to do good with some of the other vets around, but I don't know if I was successful at it. And then I didn't handle it right either, because my brain just couldn't process some of the stories that I heard,
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize, speaking for myself, I should say, several years ago, I was always, if I talked to a vet or something, what was it like over there? What did you do? They're not going to open up and tell you, if you haven't been there, they're not going to tell you the toughest stuff. I mean, it's almost like you have to have been there for them to tell you what it was really like, just because of the deepness of it. And then as civilians, we're like, well, why won't you tell us? Why don't you talk about it? And it's just like, well, there's some things you just don't talk about. And I think that kind of increases, to a certain extent, it increases the separation. I don't know. I haven't really landed on a good way to close that gap, with a vet that's really struggling with what they did or what they saw or whatever. I'm really landed on a good way to close the gap between them and just kind of open the conversation.
I don't know that you have to.
Yeah. Okay.
You can just be a good friend for them, and if they need you, they'll tell you.
Sure. Okay.
So if you're just somebody in their life, that would probably be the best thing, because you can't really. push them to figure out like and it's hard to talk about.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
100%. Yeah, I've had people
So-
I've asked to come on the show, and they're just like, I don't really want to. And I'm like, dude, no offense at all. I'm astonished that anybody wants to come on, and talk on this dumb show. But when folks say no, I'm like, no offense taken, man. I mean, that's you're opening up your heart to all 5 listeners, or whatever, or potentially the whole internet. I mean, the whole world potentially. So
right.
it's daunting for sure. But
and even to tell one of your closest friends from back home,
right,
like one of the guys who did something really shitty over there, I'm the only person he's ever told.
wow,
and I didn't pressure him into it, but he's like, he just got out of the hospital from drinking to the point of having a seizure.
right,
It wasn't his first time, and he was wasted again. And I was like, dude, what the fuck are you? Why?
Yeah.
But and like, you can't tell your family members that, like the shit he did, because I mean, how do you tell anybody that? Even the stuff that is like justified if you end up doing something that you feel really bad about, like how do you have that conversation with somebody?
Yeah, like even if a kid is on a bike and like he's got 105 rounds hanging off the side, and you see he's coming toward you and you have to stop him and end up killing him, that's as justified as you can get. But even that, I mean, I don't know how somebody would overcome that, even when it's that blatant,
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't figured that one out. I haven't figured out myself, and I never did shit like that,
Right.
But weed has helped a lot of people. I'll say that.
Yeah.
So, a lot of my friends.
Yeah. I've heard that. Yeah.
That and mushrooms apparently is helping people now.
I've
alcohol usually doesn't help anything, but it's what all vets do.
Right.
A lot of the time, it's like we grew up getting wasted all the time, and now it's just such a habit by the time you get out. And you might feel shitty about what you did and want to forget it, so you just drink yourself until you can't dream anymore, black out so you don't dream and shit like that. And so the people who can that I've seen who have switched to weed instead of drinking until they black out every night, their lives are a lot better than what they were when they were drinking all the time. Because then that causes other problems too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, you pretty much answered this question already, but I do like to ask specifically, if a kid asked you, if a kid's like, I'm thinking about going to the military, what's your advice? What would you tell a kid?
I would tell them, don't do it. I would do my best to convince them not to.
Sure.
I would definitely point out how we support Al-Qaeda all over the place. It's our government's fault that there's open slave trade in Libya. We haven't made any country better. And then if it's an older person, you can talk to them about like how horrible it is for the economy, because they're going to care about money more. But I don't know.
Sure.
That you really need to get to people's emotions to change their ideas. So even though that stuff's really interesting to me, I probably wouldn't waste my time on that. But also just all the horrible things that happen afterwards. Like didn't lose any friend over there. Lost a number of them to a suicide now.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were trying to figure it out. There's one other couple that was married when we were in, because I got married when I was in. There was only one other couple that's still married. And like Um, yeah, me and my wife almost split up too, and it's like, so there's that, and that just destroys the whole family, So I'm very, very happy that didn't happen.
No kidding.
Then just all the mental health problems, all the alcohol abuse, all the drugs, all the just can't deal with shit in your real life, anger issues, But I would say suicide, divorce, and abuse, like substance abuse, would be the number ones I'd try to go after too.
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the things I'm trying to do with this show is and I've said this all the time, but again, if people don't understand what something costs, they'll be less careful about buying it. And if you don't understand the cost of war and a lot of things you're talking about are almost intrinsic with war and a large military, if they don't understand the cost of that, then they'll be more willing to go to war.
Oh yeah.
But
sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, but I mean, if somebody thinks it's worth it and it's needed, that's fine. Just know what it's going to cost, what the cost is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I actually have two thoughts on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, like, so many people just support it because that's what our military is doing. And I mean, America was formed by God himself. So everything we do has to be justified, is more or less the thought, at least when I was growing up, and which is obviously just not true. But also it's like, if you don't understand what's happening, why would you support war? Like, I try to explain to some people about like how ISIS was created or some shit that's happened in Yemen, and they're like, well, where are you getting your information from? How do you know that? Like, I think we should just, support the troops and whatever. And it's like, if you can't even tell me what's going on in one of the countries we're in, where hundreds of thousands of kids have died due to our government's actions, and you support it, you should probably rethink that.
Sure.
If you can figure out why we're there and then you want to support it, go ahead, but don't just blindly support mass murder.
Yeah.
The other thing is, man, don't lie to your kids about it. It's not fun to have conversations like that with little people, but I mean, if like my son's 8, and he asks me questions, I just refer to it as when I was in the desert,
Yeah.
And sometimes he asks me questions, I'm like, we'll talk about that later. But like, if he says something like, oh, war is cool or something like that, like, dude, a lot of people die. So I have serious conversations with my 8-year-old son, so he's not growing up thinking, oh, I want to be like dad and go do that.
Right.
And that's what, unfortunately, that's what a lot of churches do. And obviously that's what the public education system does.
Yeah.
And like, all the school systems care about is pumping out soldiers and just good little workers who don't question anything. So just don't lie to your kids and tell them how fucked up it is. Obviously I don't go into like detail of anything.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. With an 8-year-old. Yeah. But
when he's older, I'm sure I will, but it's just like, I'm not going to be, even though it makes me uncomfortable having that conversation with him, I'm not going to be like, ignore it and let it slide. Because if we just tell them the truth when they're little, they're not going to grow up thinking they're going to go be a hero.
Sure. Sure.
So I don't know. I would love to get the Christian community to turn their back on the military industrial complex.
Right.
That would be, it makes sense for one. And two, I've told people before, it's pretty hard to follow the Prince of Peace when you're working for like the institution of death and destruction. You know, that's what it is. And we're doing it for what? So, man, I forgot their name. At the weapons companies. All the weapons companies can make a lot of money.
Or Boeing or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So they can get rich and wealthy.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. It's not worth it in any way. I would challenge it. If I've made anybody mad listening to this, my email's dane.odin@outlook.com. Send me an example of a win that we've had. Something good. What good has come out of that? Any of them.
Yeah.
In my lifetime, anyways. Don't send me shit about World War II.
Right. Right. Huh. Well, yeah. Let's see. Real quick, what were some of the your favorite moments or your best memories, I guess, in the military? When you look back, I mean, I like you're saying, obviously a lot of it, the overall experience you don't regret, but there were things you rather you hadn't done. But what were some of the brighter moments?
I guess, I mean, just hanging out with my friends, you know, like I love shooting, but they would make you hate your life in the field too. So I can't even be like, oh yeah, on the range it was fun, because they'd make you hate your life at the range.
Right. What I heard somebody recently say, only the military can make shooting not fun.
Oh yeah, it's 100% true.
Yeah. Huh.
And, like it's hard. It's kind of hard to say, because like I respect a lot of the guys I was with.
Sure.
I was with some very impressive warriors.
Right.
You know, I really got the chance to be around some awesome people, and there's not one of them that I would see and try to avoid. No. So keep that in mind when I say this next part.
Right. Okay. Okay.
But the culture of it is just be angry as much as possible. And so, like, I wanted to go learn how to kill people with my friends and have a good time.
Right.
About it. You know, and that's just, everybody's so angry, probably because everything's going to shit in their personal lives. So they come to work and bring it to work. And then it's just kind of like a contest. You can be the most angry person, and that just makes it not fun. So I hated a lot of the culture, even though I liked a lot of it too. Right. And I did not answer anything that you asked me. Brighter moments. Two of my best friends were a little older than me, and they were both married and both had kids. So I go over to their house all the time and hang out with them and spend time with their family. One of them I got to see in Michigan when I went out there, and then I went and saw his ex-wife in Ohio. We drove out there to hang out with her because my wife was there for the last 6 months, so she got to know them too.
Sure. Okay.
But
yeah.
I probably enjoyed hanging out with those two guys the most.
Yeah.
My other friends, a lot of them would like smoke like salvia or just shit like that, so they'd be high.
Right.
Like, well, I'm not gonna sit here and watch you guys smoke.
Right.
And especially for how much trouble you can get in when you're doing that, you know.
Right.
In the Marines. But I talked to a lot of those guys too still.
Yeah.
Well, two of them, not a lot of them. There's four. I talked to half of them still. But I had a lot of good times with those guys too.
Yeah.
And when we got back from Iraq, we were put into this barracks that was supposed to be ripped down like 10 years ago. And they just left it up. So that's where we got to live.
Nice.
Which was awesome.
Oh yeah? Okay.
It was awesome because they come check your room every week to make sure it's clean enough. You know? And like I remember my gunny, he was in the bathroom looking around the shower, and he started giving me shit about that. And I was like, Gunny, I literally cleaned that for 2 hours. I cannot get that shit off.
Right.
And he just looked at me and was like, yeah, this place is a shithole. And just walked out. And he's like, you're good. People there'd be dudes who'd punch holes in their wall. Nobody would notice.
Oh, wow.
Because there was already holes in the walls. So it was. So I was in camp. I was in Camp Horno, and the first time I saw Horno was when I was in infantry school. We were on a hike and we walked by it, and I remember thinking, "I hope I do not come to this place."
Right.
Because it was the worst looking place I had ever seen, and I don't know exactly when this happened, but a bunch of generals were bouncing from base to base and camp to camp, and they were like, Camp Horno is the worst camp on any base in the entire U.S. so then they gave Horno a shit ton of money to build new barracks and a bunch of other facilities. So when the new barracks would come up and you got to live in one of those, everything had to be spotless.
Right.
So I'm glad I was not in one of the nice ones when I got back from Iraq. So, I don't know. We go out to Vegas every once in a while. I've had a lot of fun out there,
Yeah.
It's hard to remember after drinking so much, kind of too,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, yeah.
Just partying with friends is the good memories.
Right. So it was basically college.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't either.
I mean, I did go to quite a few. I've been to a number of different colleges.
Okay.
Actually, so, and the most fun I've had at one, I met an Army vet who was in the invasion of Iraq.
Oh, okay.
He was the tanker.
Yeah.
And me and him hung out. I went to school like twice a week, and my first class was 8 a.m, and then my second class was at 3 p.m.
Right.
Because I was not responsible, and I waited to the last minute to try to get into big school.
Right.
So that's how that happened. But I go to my first class. I'd go work out. I meet this guy, and we do all our math homework for calculus. So we had at 3 o'clock. And then after we were done doing our homework, we would just go to the bars and drink until we had our class at 3.
Right.
So that was my fun college experience, was just getting wasted with other vets.
Right. And then just make the 3 o'clock professor's class a real joy.
That guy was a dick, man.
Yeah.
I don't... some days it'd be like, I can't be here right now. I got to figure out how to sneak out of here. He'd chase people down the hall. He's like, you're supposed to be in my class this whole time. So we started not taking our bag or anything. If we wanted to leave, we just wouldn't take a bag. That way we could just walk out without carrying anything and be like, I'm just going to the bathroom.
And not make a big scene or make it obvious you're leaving.
Never come back. Yeah. Are you still there?
Yep, I got you. I don't know what happened. I can hear you. Now you're moving. Yep, got it. Don't know what happened. But yeah, you were saying you wouldn't take a bag.
Yeah, just so we could sneak out.
Yeah.
Or you'd have to walk past them to get out. So if you were taking your bag with you, you'd be like, where are you going?
Right.
We just won't take anything with us, so we could just go back to the bar.
Wow.
But everywhere I go, vets are my favorite people.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
All the friends I've made basically are all other grunts or some combat oriented people,
Right. Huh. Do you think there's a connection between that and when you are a grunt, you're confronted with the possibility of the shortness of life? Do you think there's a connection there? Or like if you're a truck driver or a cook, you're in that environment and that culture, but it's not like any moment you could die. Whereas if you're out patrolling, I think that is always in the back of your mind. Is that, am I just shooting at the moon or?
No. Are you saying, like, do we connect better? Because we've all had to deal with, hey, we could die.
Exactly.
I don't know. I've never thought of that.
Okay.
As I don't know. Most grunts aren't like, they don't complain about shit, which is nice. You know,
Sure.
like
Yeah.
if you're working with somebody, they're never complaining about like most times. You know, they're just like, all right, well, we're just gonna do this, and nothing's that big of a deal because, you know, like you said, we're not patrolling anymore.
Right.
Like, this is nowhere near as bad as it could be. And I don't know if I would imagine every grunt, at least, if not more people, like other military people who go over there, you know, some of them probably have to think about this too, but like you were saying, have to confront that you might be dead. I think most of us have at least come to terms with that, at least for a certain part of our life anyways. And I think that does something to your brain forever. I really do.
Huh. Okay.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a good thing, but after you accept that you might be dead, I just think it wires you differently.
Right. Yeah, whether it's a good thing or not, like you're saying, it seems there are benefits, just like you're saying, like where you don't complain and you can connect.
I don't know if that's a benefit.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
I mean, complaining a lot isn't something good to do, you know, but they just keep everything inside, so it's not like, I don't know, it's just like a fucking deal with it, you know?
Sure. I see what you're saying. Okay.
But there probably is something to that.
Yeah.
But I don't know for sure.
Well, yeah. Well, what do you got going on? You got your podcast and stuff. Tell us about that.
Yep. You can just go to theobtainablefreedomproject.com, and it's a podcast. I write sometimes, not very often. I'm trying to do it more often, but I think my writing's pretty good.
Yeah.
We have started like a homeschool channel with my kid, so we have homeschool stuff on there. That's what one of the goals for this next year is, getting him on there more. For one, he's just always wanted to be a YouTuber. Two, it actually teaches him a lot.
Right.
Like Ron Paul's homeschool curriculum does this, where they start YouTube channels for the kids for public speaking and stuff like that. And that's not what we're using right now, but that's how I figured that one out.
Sure, the same concept, yeah.
Yep. And you know, I got stuff on there that can help you with homeschooling. Mostly just products that we've used before, or some videos and there will be more videos here in the future with him.
Sure.
I think that's it on the website.
Yeah, well, and
just think if I pass anything over.
Yeah, the value there is, I mean, homeschooling is a daunting task if someone's just jumping into it. So to hear your experience and get your feedback, like you're saying, on stuff you've used, or maybe you can see examples of how you go about it, I think there's a lot of value there.
Yeah, and like if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Like, it's not hard, and your kids will grow up being more self-motivated. So
sure.
What is it? Ron Paul's thing is like a self-directed education. So it's relying on the kids to do it for themselves. So
sure.
I've given my kid a lot of space to do what he wants, because I kind of take stuff from the self-directed schooling and then from unschooling. And one of the best things I've heard is, I'm not raising kids, I'm raising future adults. Right. And if we can just give our kids a good self-image and confidence, it doesn't matter what they know, because they'll be way better off than going to public school forever and then getting out and not having a good self-image or confidence, you know, and just wanting to conform with everybody else. So even though I'm not the best teacher, whatever you want to call me, my kid, my 8-year-old, is doing awesome.
Yeah.
He really is. With math especially, dude. He blows my mind. I'm like, I don't even understand how you figured that out.
Right.
So very proud of him for that. But it's not hard. What is hard is setting your life up to be able to homeschool.
Sure.
That's the hard part.
Yep. Yeah. Well, it's a commitment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like you have to be with your kids all the time.
Yeah.
And my wife and I decided that when I found out she was pregnant with our first one, so we just had in our minds that we just got to figure out how to do this with both of us not working all the time.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah.
Did I answer? Did you have more questions?
Yeah. No, that was great. Yeah. Well, I'll for the listener, I don't really put any links in the show notes or anything. So the show is Obtainable Freedom Project, correct? Project?
Yeah.
Obtainable Freedom Project.
Yep.
Okay.
theobtainableFreedomProject.com. I would go there. All my episodes are on there. You can find me on any of the other stuff, but it's not just the podcast. So there's more to it.
Gotcha.
And I am an absolute idiot when it comes to technology, like you witnessed when we started this.
Right.
And I am very happy with my website. I think I've done a pretty good job with it. So.
Yeah.
And with that, like, dude, if I can figure out how to do this shit on my own, anybody else out there can too.
Right. And I mean, we're living in an age where the whole internet's at our fingertips. With, I've been doing that recently where I have a task or something I need to accomplish. I'm like, well, I've never done it. Maybe I'll hire somebody. And it's like, well, just look it up and see if you can do it. And I've tackled some things on my own that normally I wouldn't, just because I kind of shamed myself into a little research.
And there's plenty of guys out there, especially like in the anarchist veteran community.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, basically any of them that I've talked to would like get on the phone with you and help you out.
Right.
Basically, so not speaking for everybody, but there's a lot of help out there if you just ask too.
Yeah.
So people are down to give you advice, especially when it's something they believe in too.
Thank you for listening to this episode of How I Embraced the Suck. If you enjoyed the show, tell a friend. And as my Girl Scout den mother used to say, stay frosty.
Yeah, I've talked to people when it's just a black screen. I'm just like, it's hard to talk to them because then you can't see any of their facial expressions or if they're trying to talk.